The Seven Guardians of Humanity. Legends born of mankind's wishes, sitting on top of creation. The very counter-force of the world. Immortal heroes who hold the title Grand. Heroic spirits are a phenomenon of highest order. They are heroes of mankind's myths and legends, recorded into a catalogue removed from time and space, the throne of heroes. Each time planet Earth falls under a threat, built-in safety mechanism, the counterforce will summon one of these fabled heroic spirits from the throne to combat the threat. Of course, in the past there have been many who have tried to abuse this system for their own benefit, yet its original purpose still remains, which is to summon heroic spirits as servants guarding the human order. But above these heroes exists even higher beings, true guardians of humanity, the seven grand heroic spirits, grand servants. Hello, it's me, Marinik90, and as you might have heard, I'm trying out some new microphone here. Hopefully this one sounds better than my last one. Today I'm here to talk about awesome weeaboo stuff, the Fate series. More specifically, Fate Grand Order, a mobile game that combines all the facets of the Fate series of Type Moon, which originally started as a single visual novel back in 2000s and continued to expand its lore and character roster, or rather spiral out of control in form of numerous books, anime and games. It's no exaggeration to say that this game is filled with stuff like amazing plot, great characters, interesting gameplay mechanics, and gacha gambling system that either makes you love or hate your life. And a lot of waifus and husbandos, but that goes without saying. As the title and that corny opening narration might have given away, today's Let's Talk topic is a speculation about the identities of the seven grand servants appearing in Fate Grand Order, so there's a lot to cover. Keep in mind, for this video I'll be using a lot of Fate/Nasuverse terminology, so the people who are not familiar with the verse will have to go with small briefing I'll be giving. So unless you want to be lost as all balls, I recommend downloading Fate Grand Order. Come on, it's free. Isn't that what you degenerates want? Anyway, this video will contain minor spoilers for Lost Belts 2, 3 and 5, so proceed at your own risk. Let's speculate and talk about that. In summary, a servant is a degraded form of heroic spirit, composite beings formed of the great heroes from planet Earth's past, present and future, recorded into higher dimensional catalog called the Throne of Heroes. When summoned into the world of humans, the immense power of heroic spirits are limited by containers called class, which is what determines what abilities and aspects of heroic spirits are given to the servant, Dungeons and Dragons style. There are as many classes as there are marketing opportunities, but largely there exists basic 7 regular classes that are the only ones relevant to this video, those being Saber, made up of heroes utilizing swords in their legends, Lancer, made up of warrior spearmen, Archer, class made of archers, or just people that use projectiles, Rider, heroes that utilize or ride beasts or vehicles of some kind, Caster, made up of magic users and other misfits, Assassin, who are all either killers, assassins, or masters of stealth and espionage, and finally Berserker, for heroes that have lost their sanity and gone berserk, or have qualities of madness or rage to them. So, like 90% of Nasuverse concepts, not too complicated. On the other hand, Grand Servants are the 7 heroic spirits that are supposed to be standing on the apex of all other servants. The strongest of the strongest, the toppest of the toppest, cream of the crop, biggest, baddest motherfuckers available throughout the human history. They are the origin of heroic spirit summoning system, summoned by the world itself to counteract the true evils of humanity that are a threat to the planet and all of the human history, aka the Beast class. Grand Servants are on fundamentally different level than other servants due to their Grand class containers being rank above that of plain vanilla servants containers. It's even stated one Grand Servant could defeat infinite regular servants due to this insane gap. Each of the 7 Grand Servants fit into one of the 7 classes I already mentioned, each of them basically embodying the pinnacle of the idea of that said class. King Hassan is supposedly the very origin of the word assassin, making him assassin of assassins. Merlin and Solomon both embody archetypes of European and Eastern sorcery, making them caster among casters. Basically, Grand Servants are best that humanity has to offer, excluding any divine beings of course. Thus far, 6 Grand Servants have been revealed in Fate Grand Order. Well, technically only 4, those being Solomon as Grand Caster, whose position is taken by Merlin after Solomon pieces out so hard he deletes himself off of the Throne of Heroes, King Hassan as Grand Assassin, who gave up his ranking in Babylonia, Orion as Grand Archer, who also gave up his ranking in Atlantic Lost Belt, and finally our boy Romulus Guarinius, who also gave up his ranking to become playable character. You know, I'm starting to wonder if the planet's Grand Servant defense system is utter crap. I mean, what's with all these Grand Servants giving up their title to help save the world? Shouldn't that be their job from the get-go? Fuck! One of the Grand Servants technically is at fault for causing the world to fall into crisis in the first place. Finally, the 6th confirmed Grand Servant is of currently unknown class, cloaked figure serving as servant of Void Selim David. Who and what class this mysterious servant is yet to be revealed, but most likely will be in the Lost Belt storyline. I heard someone say that this was Grand Berserker, but judging by their collected manner of speech, there's literally no hint to their identity, other than it probably isn't insane Berserker. One more thing regarding confirmed servants is that Gin Lilosh von Escanor, mother-cucking God Emperor of Mankind Qin Shi Huang, reached a state close to a Grand Servant through all kinds of chicanery, his signed graph being explicitly stated to be nearly on par with a Grand Servant. So what this means for other servants' changes to evolve into Grands, I don't know, not likely, unless the servants become Pokemon. Looking at these 6 confirmed characters, we can make certain assessments about further qualifications and conditions on what makes a servant a Grand Servant. Now obviously there's that stuff about archetypes and origins, but looking at Orion and Guarinius, we find out that no divine being, such as gods or demons, should be able to become a Grand Servant, Guarinius being a specific case due to his connection with humanity, and Orion's status as Grand being unavailable by Artemis, who hijacked his summoning back in Okeanos. The fact that Artemis didn't hijack his summoning in Atlantic highly suggests she has no business on Grand Servant. And besides, if it were possible, which one would you prefer as Grand Servant, Orion or Artemis? The Divine Spirits being unable to become Grand Servants unfortunately means that Sun Wukong is big no-no. Ah, damn it. We can also conduct a hypothesis on potential conditions on becoming a Grand by looking at the opposites of the Grand Servants. The 7 servants of Beast class, who are meant to embody the evils of humanity. Not the 7 deadly sins, mind you, but attributes that humans embody simply by being human, or something along those lines. If these beasts embody 7 evils, shouldn't Grand Servants correspondingly embody some forms of the 7 virtues of humanity? God, I've said 7 so many times in this video already. This is gonna turn into a drinking game, isn't it? This could be the case, seeing how Solomon is pretty much universally associated with wisdom, and King Hassan's virtue can easily be either faith or discipline. Orion and Guarinius are a bit harder to pinpoint, but they could be fortitude or love. But I don't actually know for sure if this is one of the qualifications. After all, Merlin is devoid of any virtue. Most of the Grand Seven seem to originate from the same general area of the world, interestingly close to the area the first civilizations are believed to have been formed, with the exception of Merlin, but I think this is just coincidental and not requirements in any way. With that being said, we'll be finally getting to the point of this video, speculating about the Grand Servant candidates. First, let's direct our attention at servants already existing in FGO, as yes, already introduced servants can potentially be summoned as Grand, just like Merlin, who appears as regular vanilla caster in Babylonia and so on, hinting at other Grand servants possibly receiving successors. There's only one confirmed candidate, that being Caster Gilgamesh for Grandcaster, making him third option after Merlin. I don't know if Archer Gilgamesh could be considered a candidate for a Grand Archer. My guess is that no. I mean sure, he's got the power to back it up, but Gil is pretty unconventional archer, with shooting swords and all at mongrels. If he could be candidate for another class, I don't know. Unconfirmed candidates that I myself think are highly likely, or at least fit the requirements for Grand rank, are more numerous however. First, we have a Miyamoto Musashi for Grand Saber. I really hope that it turns out to be her, or at least a version of Musashi that's been Grand Saber in disguise. There's still stories to tell with this character, and her status as most well-regarded swordsmaster in Japan that pretty much defined the Eastern sword duel genre would make her a solid contender for Grand Saber in my eyes. And other Saber candidates, well, I guess it should be obvious that it would be a version of Artoria, wielder of most popular sword in the world, king of knights, mascot of the whole goddamn franchise, yada yada yada. While including her has a strong precedence, I kinda don't want this to be the case, as we have like, what, close to 20 Saber faces bumping around in Chaldea's cafeteria? I mean geez, they must be working over capacity by now. Come on, let's think about this on the perspective of food bill. Prototype version of King Arthur is equally possible, I guess. Proto-Arthur already kinda has done a feat akin to a Grand by defeating one of the Beast class, the Beast of 666, although only partially, which is kinda interesting to consider. Could this be the reason he traverses alternate timelines in FGO? I'm guessing that Grand Servants will only be denizens of quote correct history to Grand Order timeline. Karna also has pretty solid chance at being considered Grand Lancer candidate, especially if the thing about Grand Servants representing the virtues of humanity is true, as Karna is pretty much culturally synonymous with generosity. I guess he'd be pretty good choice for Grand Lancer considering his epic weapon and power level, though at this point I'd find that pretty unlikely. It would be pretty underwhelming for him to get sloppy seconds from Quarinius, who just kinda fucked off from his role. Besides, we've already had Super Saiyan God Karna fighting Ultimate Berserker Super Alter God of Darkness and Destruction Hakaishin Arjuna. What more do you really need? Another existing servant with Grand Lancer potential is Longinus. He was the Roman soldier whose spear pierced the side of Christ in the Bible, confirming the end of Age of Gods and salvation of humanity. The guy's pretty obscure Fate character from a book called Fate Requiem that recently got its own event in FGO over in Japan, so I guess all Longi's chance to appear as a second Grand Lancer is close to zero now. I really wanted the main Grand Lancer to be him for the Spear of Destiny memes, but instead we got fucking Roma boy commenting saying,
I am Julius Caesar, Emperor of all Nome. Everybody has to do what I say.
While we are on topic of Grand Class seconds, how cool would it be that second Grand Archer, if he is to appear, would be another version of our boy Rob in the Hood? Pretty much Archer among all archers. It would be perfect, especially as according to Fate, Robin Hood is a mantle that has been taken on by multiple people in past, just like Hassan Isabah is, meaning that our lovable 3-star Snuff King looking mofo isn't the only Robin out there. My favorite outcome would be to have Luxlow from Richard Lionheart fame revealed as kind of King Hassan to all other Robin Hoods. That would be cool if there would ever be another Grand Archer. Come on, Fate, don't just talk about how there's multiple bearers of Robin Hood name, but actually show that, like with Hassan's. There's plenty of potential here, like one Robin who uses longbow, one with crossbow or swords, and one with Merryman as NP. Jesus Christ, can you imagine that? Iskandar could have potential to become Grand Rider, but judging how many actual great new characters can fill the spot, I don't think Grand Rider Alexander the Grand is gonna happen. Hannibal from Fate Requiem is also pretty likely. I don't really know what his class was in that book, but if it's not Rider, what's even the point? As for his chances on becoming Grand, this guy was so insane he went down in history as a living legend and a meme for steamrolling Rome with elephant train, skipping across mountain range. He is definitely the weakest candidate for a Grand Rider, so I wouldn't mind him just being a regular 4 or 5 star, but I think he'd have a pretty good reasons to be considered for Grand title. Alright, let's move on. The next section, the one you've been waiting for. Or the one I've been waiting for. Which heroes, yet unseen in any Fate media, have the potential to be introduced as Grand Servants in the future? Let's start with Grand Saber. I really don't have a set candidate for this one, other than male version of Musashi, but I'm open for it to being some other Japanese swordsman, like Ito Itosai, though Musashi is much more popular. For Lancer, I'd figure Nimrod from Tower of Babel lore would be unconventional yet convincing candidate for Grand Lancer. I mean, what else is the Tower of Babel but a world's largest f***ing spear aimed at gods themselves?
If you're gonna dig to the heavens! No matter what's in my way, I won't stop!
The guy was a great hunter, who kinda Semiramist Tower of Babel into his lore. Maybe the tower would become anti-divine spirit space cannon that could pierce into Rever's side of the world or some insane shit like that. We are talking about Grand Servants here. That would be pretty neat, but it's unlikely that there ever will be another Grand Lancer. For Archer, after Orion, the obvious choice would be Ho Yi, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because this dude means business. Legendary archer from famous Chinese myth who shot down the sun. No, wait, scratch that. 9 out of 10 fucking suns! Admittedly, he was a god at the time, and divine spirits can't be Grand Servants, as I said, but like many other Fate characters, such as Medusa and Rama, Ho became a mortal in his story, so he could be summoned in that degraded form. And if that's not enough to make him Grand Archer, just put him in FGO as regular 5-star Archer for shit's sake. Come on, I'd pay squads for that. Grand Rider has 2 very, and I mean very, strong contenders. At number 1, I have my personal pick, Genghis Khan, also known as Genghis Khan, the ruler of Mongolia Empire. This guy is basically even meaner and bigger Altera. His noble phantasm could involve his army or lineage and all sorts of shit. The figure this popular hasn't appeared yet in Fate, it's really possible. If a dude primarily known for trying to conquer the entire world on a freaking horseback is not Grand Rider material, I don't know who is. Wait, I do know. Motherfucking Noah from the Old Testament. Many of you probably saw this one coming. Noah's Ark is pretty sweet ride, full of samples of all life on Earth that was made to withstand the flood that destroyed everything. Sounds like a pretty OP anti-world phantasm. Not to mention that the Ark could potentially be a reality marble containing each phantasmal species that were roaming around the Age of Gods. You know, the ones every other OP rider rides? Yikes. I kinda want Genghis more though, just by a virtue of developers having a lot more freedom to go balls to the walls with his NPs and skills. And if Noah and all the rest of the people I'm gonna mention in this video are getting in the game, there's gonna be awfully lot Christianity-based Grand Servants, so mix it up a little. Speaking of Grand Assassin, who again will probably never appear, could very well be Cain from the Old Testament, aka the first murderer in human history. He even lied about killing someone. That's like trademark assassin thing. Considering he'd have a mark of Cain as noble phantasm, he'd be pretty OP, so he'd feel right at home as Grand Servant, also due to his infamy, archetypal nature, and potential power level. I guess he could also be just a berserker, because nobody ain't gonna replace Skull Gramps in our hearts.
Your angel of death awaits.
Finally, for Grand Berserker, it has to be an actual historical berserker. You know, the origin of the word, like Dr. Skelter and friends, so one of the popular Vikings maybe? I have to admit that what little info I could find on historical Scandinavian berserkers didn't confirm any big names being berserkers, but one pretty darn important guy by the name of Harold Fairhair was heavily associated with the first berserkers, mainly by ruling them directly. That could be easily twisted into him being origin of all berserkers. As for other power and historical importance thingies, the guy did unite all of Norway into a single kingdom. Kinda reminds me of someone else. Grand Berserker being revealed to be Viking King would be pretty fitting and dope, but I'm kinda afraid that it will end up being Heracles or some shit again. Please don't do that. So, there were my assumptions and reasonings for possible Grand Servants to be revealed in the future FGO story and some secondary Grand Servant candidates. These were fun to come up with, and I hope you agree with my picks. In case you don't, write your own essays and lists of candidates you'd think have a shot at becoming Grand Servants, or just people you would want to see get the title, down in the comments. I'd personally love to see Genghis Khan, Male Musashi, or Noah take the titles, but people probably wanna get more waifus though. Anyways, all comments are welcome, let's get this discussion going. This is all speculation anyway. All I know is that when next Lost Belt is released, we could find out that Grand Saber is Shiki Tohno wielding Slash Emperor, Lancer being revealed to be Pseudo-Servant Shinji as Odin with Gungir, Grand Archer being Alcides who destroyed his entire Lost Belt by accident, Grand Rider Sieg riding Fafnir powered by Grail of Heaven, Grand Caster who's Hakuno Kishinami wielding combination of 2nd and 5th magic, and Amaterasu, Grand Assassin position being shared by Matahari and Bela Gunnes, and finally a Berserker being a twist villain Mash Alter possessed by main bad guy Galahad, who is voiced by Junichi Suwabe. Or Kirby. Hopefully not though. Thank you for watching. If you like Fate and want to see more content on it, buster chain that like button and subscribe. If you don't know what I meant by that. Just hit it very hard. Regardless, I'm probably doing my next power scale on Fate, so look forward to that. I'm Marinik90, peace out.